This is it, the World Cup final. Both New Zealand and South Africa have been here before, but who is going to win this one? In this episode of Beyond 80, I'm joined by Danny Cipriani, and we're going to break down where that final is going to be won and lost. Well, Danny, so far, how's the World Cup been for you?
I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been a great competition with a bunch of different combative styles, and everyone's got to enjoy different ways of playing the game. And also, you know, France put on a huge spectacle, and it's always great to watch.
Well, for me, I think there's going to be four areas where this final is going to be won or lost. So we'll look at that first one, which is the ability to impose your game plan. Now, to be really basic, New Zealand going to win this game if they can get outside the 15s. South Africa going to win this game if most of the matches played between the 15s. New Zealand have made 38% of their carries out wide, which is more than any other team. They've got the best gain line out wide as well. But South Africa have got the second worst defensive ability out wide, so they can't stop those gain lines. So we're going to have a look here at how New Zealand are actually going to try and get outside South Africa. So this is a slightly too long kick from Alan Smith. It sets up the mark here. Then James Lowe puts an unbelievable kick back. He goes basically from his own 5 metre deep into the New Zealand 22. Most teams here would be looking immediately to kick back. They're under pressure here. But instead, the ball's moved to the centre, and it's Bogan Barrett, and he's going to attack the line. So now, this obviously is quite familiar to you, Danny. You were a fly half who liked to play this kind of attack.
Yeah.
In this situation, you know, why are New Zealand looking to attack here compared to, say, just setting up that kick or trying to go for the up and under? Why are they going more aggressive?
New Zealand are the best team in the world of being able to attack space at any point. They don't necessarily have a devised game plan to say, we're going to play this way, South Africa will play this way, this is what's coming. But New Zealand are much more, we will attack space. So what I find interesting here when you watch New Zealand, when they're coming back and even when they're coming forward, they don't look like they're breaking sweat. And every single rugby player you see is always running around frantic on the field, fast, let's get here. The calmness within this organisation is part of the beauty. So once the ball gets to Bogan Barrett, you know, he's calling it, he sees the space, he might look for an up and under, but he can recognise the space is in behind. Now watch how calm the movement is for everyone to get into position. Even the tight head prop, that little adjustment there is outstanding. We won't find that, unfortunately, in England. The ruck's happening, he's now set back, got wider into a position where he's in the best position to carry the ball and make a pass or a carry. But when you've got a tighter prop that adjusts his feet and gets into the best possible spot to make all decisions, that's outstanding to see. So those little things like that just mean Geordie Barrett got the ball with loads of time and he could commit the defence, and now they're all in 6s and 7s. To have that awareness around him to do that, it just shows that they're getting back to how New Zealand used to play. Because there was a period where New Zealand started playing like the rest of the world and their success was a little bit more limited. They work on all areas of the game. This isn't isolated from you to me or forward to back. They have a group that can attack and go for space no matter where it is on the field. And for me, that's what makes New Zealand a special outfit. That's the team that's making their own decision. The players are empowered. And that's a dangerous outfit when it comes to it.
So do you think it's fair to say that New Zealand across the 23 have the best basic skills of any team in this World Cup?
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. I think just over the last 20 years, 10, 15 years of how New Zealand play the game, that's how they're brought up, that's the way the game is. Throughout this competition, you've seen how New Zealand have got back to playing like them.
We talked about the stats. South Africa had less possession in their last 2 games against France and England. New Zealand have had more possession in every single one of their games apart from against Ireland. So there's a clear difference in how they want to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is something we don't often see. This is Mark Talia, a winger, getting involved basically as a 4th back row. Now, this is quite unusual, but New Zealand use their wingers 21% of the time, which is more than any other side. I think this might be an opportunity here for New Zealand to have tried something that they might do against South Africa. So South Africa are going to try and take that width away from them. So one way to combat that is to bring your wingers inside so they're still getting the ball. If you leave them on the wing against South Africa, they risk just being starved of possession.
When I was at Wasp back in the day, Sean used to get our wingers touching the ball all the time. Tom Boyce, Paul Saki, put them in the middle of the field. You think around the ruck, why would they be of any benefit? But these guys getting off the line aren't used to people that can use footwork. Look at Mark Talia here, absolutely world class. He's probably the top 3 wingers in the world. He's big, he's strong, he's quick, can do everything. He's got real finesse to his game. You put him up against the toughest area right now to attack.
As you say, he creates a mismatch. So we might associate a mismatch with, Ebony Etzebeth looking at Mark Talia. But actually, Talia here against Montoya, who is a bigger player, the footwork that Talia's got, he can step him in a phone box, he just goes straight through and that's a line break. I mean, these are mismatches as well. Small against big is as much of a mismatch as big against small.
And change of tempo is one of the biggest things too. So if someone changes tempo at you and they're running on the inside of you, that change of tempo as a defender will make you bite in. Change of tempo in this instance is you've got forwards coming around the corner, you expect big guys coming. It's going to be tough, it's going to be physical, you've got to plant your feet. But the person who's getting it isn't that. He's able to step, move, and as you said, go anywhere.
Well, we'll obviously preview in the final here. So we've talked about New Zealand and their attempts to get to width.
Yeah.
If I just put you in the South African coaching camp, how'd you stop this?
For me, it would be to adjust at times when we go. It's not every time. And I know South Africa go all the time, most of the time. In the same flip, when we look at New Zealand versus Ireland, when they were defending, they took off all their line speed, which meant Ireland didn't adjust throughout the game and all their plays were done way before the line and New Zealand were able to adjust and get off. In the same sense, at times, if I was South Africa, I would obviously have that line speed focus, get off the line, be physical, but also as a group, know when we're going to just move as a line slowly, which would then be throwing them off their game, and then they're going to have to be overthinking and double guessing what's coming.
Well, one of the issues as well with attacking wide is that most teams will concede about 5% of turnovers when they carry in the middle. It's about 10% when they go out wide. So the more width you play with, the more higher risk you have of giving up a turnover. And we're going to see that here as we move on to this next section, which is about the breakdown, about the transition that South Africa generate. Yeah. So this is against France, one of the games for the ages. This is towards the end of the match. And France actually get a break on here. If they score the try, they're in the semi-final. And we see that they get to the edge. They're now limited in terms of the support play. And when it gets into the middle, Etzebeth makes a turnover there, then it's a bit loose by France.
When they do make their line breaks, New Zealand, as we mentioned earlier, if you was to get into this picture, you wouldn't see people joining sporadically late. What you would see is people already set because that's how they holistically play, that's what they're expecting, and as a group, they're already going to be a step ahead. But having said that, it doesn't matter if you're a step ahead when you're trying to clear off Etzebeth, Quagga Smith, sensational, Jesse Kriel gets over the ball, Dialande. You know, I've seen Pollard do it. You know, they've obviously got Vermeulen, all of those guys. So when it comes to the challenge of it, it's obviously a very different proposition for New Zealand this week. But for South Africa, slowing down New Zealand as frequently as possible is going to be what helps them sort of get some success.
Well, we're going to use Live Tag Pro for this next clip. We're going to have a look here at the kick from Dupont. So this is a near perfect kick. So he sticks it in the South African half, he sticks it towards the sideline.
It is. It's a good kick in that sense. Stats-wise, as you say, put in that position is a great kick. But if you are in the middle of the field and you kick straight down someone's throat, obviously we know what's going to happen in this clip and Cheslin Colby makes a break. You still are putting yourself under pressure. If they knew that's what they were going to do, maybe take a ruck or two, get to the 15 and then kick from there, France. Because kicking from there, it does leave you open. Because where's the ruck? It's in the middle of the field. So if that's the case, Cheslin Colby goes straight back to the ruck now.
Yeah.
So what he does, he goes straight back to the ruck because naturally they're going to be slightly slow off the floor and there's going to be slight dogleg. And the one person you don't want to have running at you in a dogleg is Cheslin Colby. He will spot out every single mismatch for him.
And one of the keys to winning any kind of rugby game is getting into the opposition 22. It's the same as shots on target in football. And we get one of those here. From essentially nothing, he gets the ball in his own half and he creates that 22 entry. One of the things that we might see, I guess, for young kids here is everyone would follow that line break and they just go on whoever's making the line break. Whereas actually South Africa here leave people to do that and set up their attack away from that. They just take their time and make sure that second phase, third phase attack is there.
Yeah, for sure. They start setting up the field as the plays unfold and you see Willie Leroux at the back organising. So if the ball comes out there, they're going to be looking in a dangerous spot.
Well, we shouldn't forget either that New Zealand are incredibly good at the breakdown. They obviously had Richie McCaw for many years.
Yeah, this clip's crazy.
Well, let's talk through this clip here. We've got Sam Cane, we've got RJ Surveyor. So we see that Sam Cane makes a tackle. RJ Surveyor is just on his feet and he's just watching for where that ball's going to land. And as soon as he gets there, he's straight over. And that is a relatively easy turnover for him.
Mate, it's unbelievable decision-making for him. The thing with Ireland, what makes it easy for Ardie Savea, in this play, it's a set-up play, which allows Ardie Savea and everyone to recognise as soon as Bundyaki catches that ball, the tempo he's at is entirely different for when he goes out the back or carries. When he's carrying, he puts his foot down. And if when he does that, as a defence, you've got to start sitting off. If he's going out the back, he puts his foot down again, you've got to start respecting what's in front of you. Because they've played early here with a view to getting them the next phase, they've actually given New Zealand an opportunity right now to get it because they haven't committed fully to this play. So he's got slightly isolated and it's sensational the fact he got over the ball that quickly and didn't lose his feet. It's phenomenal.
Well, we've talked here about South Africa's ability to play off the transition, to play off turnovers, but really they're dependent on receiving the ball for that. So New Zealand give up fewer turnovers than any other team in the quarterfinals. They kick quite a lot, but they kick a huge amount of chips and crossfield kicks, which they expect to receive. So actually South Africa might be starved of possession if they expect to get these turnovers off New Zealand.
Yeah, there is a chance of that, but South Africa also are very willing to go into games with a low amount of possession, knowing that we can squeeze you. You know, they would have learnt a lot from the game against England this weekend because England, for the first 60 minutes, did what South Africa do better than them. And they had their way of playing and they really squeezed the life out of them. And they found a way to win in the end, but if South Africa go into the game and they're starved of possession, they now know they've got to make sure that they bide their time and build momentum in the same way they did this weekend, just through 3 points and chipping away at the scoreboard. It's definitely going to be an interesting one.
Well, let's go on to talk about the Aial Battle. So this is a huge part of the semi-final win against England, which actually South Africa lost that Aial Battle. In this clip, this is one of the things I absolutely love about modern rugby and the kind of the intelligence of modern rugby players.
Yeah.
So this is a kick-off here. It's the third set piece. So it goes deep. South Africa expecting to receive that ball back. And they do. It's a great kick back. But we can see way left is Peter Steph du Toit, the open side flanker, who we do not expect to be in that position. And this is incredibly unusual to see Steph du Toit or any forward on the wing, but he's used because he's going up against Aial Battle. There's a huge height difference between those two. So any contestable kick is essentially always going to be Steph du Toit there.
For sure, it's going to be a tough challenge for whoever's opposite Steph du Toit in that situation. If, for nuance this weekend, South Africa at times mix up their attack and they go out the back here and attack those next channels, they're going to find a lot of joy because teams are preparing for the kicks. They know what's coming. So in the same way, South Africa in defence have to do something slightly different. So they have to do it in attack too. They can go with their game plan and they can go still squeeze the life out of them. But if they have the ability within it to make those decisions and those changes, that's where then New Zealand are going to come unstuck and they're going to be unsure as to what's coming next.
Just on this, again, if I'm going to put you in the All Blacks camp now, how do you defend this? Because the All Blacks do have taller wingers than flanks, but they also have someone like Aial Battle, who's essentially a back forward utility player. Do you move Aial Battle out here to combat this?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways they can do it. They can use Geordie Barrett, who's at 12. He's obviously played a lot of his rugby at fullback for New Zealand and the Hurricanes. So his height difference means he's probably at a similar height to a back rower. Could use, making sure you've got Aial Battle opposite Steph du Toit in that position. So when he does track back and he's going to go out for the high ball, straight away you've got one of your back rowers on the edge. Also, at times, Aaron Smith shooting out the line to go put super crazy pressure on Pollard or Lebok to make sure that the kick is slightly skew-if. That's a huge part of it, as and when they decide to do that. Because here, he had loads of time, no real pressure, put it right on the money.
Yeah.
So if you do that with 10, 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, they're going to do that. So at times, if you can, it's coming, you know what they're going to do. If you can trigger and send someone as a shooter to go put pressure on, the outcome of the kick's going to be entirely different and where it's going to land. So you can start with that.
Well, we'll have a look at this next clip. Now, we're talking about kicking, and it might be tempting to think that a good kick is just simply a good kick, but actually a good kick comes from the threat of a carry, from turnovers, all that kind of stuff will make the kicks better, and we see that in this case. So flanks get a little bit isolated in this carry, there's a turnover here, and then South Africa almost immediately, this is going to be Cobus Langer, stick the kick over. And so in this situation, France just don't have the personnel out there that they would expect, and they all get too close together, and South Africa score the try from this.
Yeah, for sure. When there's turnovers, there are opportunities to do whatever, kick, run, pass. Whatever the best decision in that moment is, that's how I would coach and play the game and what you do with the team. South Africa obviously they lean slightly more on the kicking side of things. They also have some fantastic individual players that want the ball in hand, and they do override at times, and Willie LaRue does step up, and Damien Wilhelmser, and they get the ball to their wingers, and they do attack in a different fashion. You saw that when Jesse Creel got the ball and chipped it through for Colby in the French game too, off a turnover. The kick isn't necessarily, the best kick. But in these instances, anything can happen, and whoever reacts quickest, and South Africa are hungry. They are always the ones that get on the scraps quicker than anyone else. They're the ones that don't let anything die, because as soon as there is a scrap, you see the winger Kurt Lee there just get the ball and he's off, and he takes some stopping.
You can't give him any space because he's just quicker than pretty much anyone else.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, and him and Colby at top speed change direction better than almost anyone.
Well, let's look at this next clip. This is New Zealand, and this is New Zealand's skill in the kicking game.
Yep.
So it's a lovely kick in the corner. It's a great return, actually. This is from Keegan.
Yeah.
And he sends it a long, long way. And this isn't great from New Zealand at the moment. The ball goes to the ground. But we see after the second phase, we see that the two deep players for Ireland, who are the two wingers, Ireland like to use their wingers in the backfield, a lot, more than other teams, they split, and you end up with this massive pocket of space in the middle with no one sweeping in behind. So this is just a great read of the situation. And also, actually, it's something we saw France exploit against South Africa when South Africa had no sweeper in that position. So this is something that New Zealand could potentially exploit against South Africa in the final.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of teams, as you say, they do put two people in the backfield on the 15s, and that's how they cover it. And they think when the ball goes down the middle, we'll just predict and get there and try and catch it on the full, and then we'll try and put it back on the opposition.
We're going to look at this final clip here, and this was from the semi-final. This is England versus South Africa. This is something we're going to see a lot of, in international rugby moving forward. So we got this contestable box kick. A huge amount of kicks are now contestable.
Yeah.
And we see how England approach this. So they send Elliot Daly up as the flyer. He's going to go up there. He's going to try and win that ball. But crucially, they don't need the other three players to go and try and win that ball. What they need is for Daly to go up, and if he slaps it back, then one of those three can play with it. If he misses it and South Africa get the ball, then they've got three players there to make the tackle and to clear it up. So can New Zealand pose that same threat?
For sure they can. I think you might see a change of selection with the wingers with South Africa, because I think from the semi-final, they would have realised Colby and Kurt Lee are fantastic players, but because of what you just mentioned, Johnny May and Elliot Daly, they had a phenomenal game because they're able to climb all over them and get into these contestable situations.
Well, we can't really talk about a final without talking about the scrum,
Yep.
at least, especially when involving South Africa. So I think it's probably fair to say that South Africa have been relatively poor at the start of matches in terms of scrummaging, but then when the fabled bomb squad come on, they get a lot better. So one of the issues here is that the Boks won 3 of the 4 scrums they had from a penalty after the hour mark. They won the other without a penalty. Mm-hmm. And that ultimately won them the semi-final. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Andre Pollard kick came off a scrum penalty. Are New Zealand going to be too far away? Because in the semi-final, England just weren't quite clinical enough. It was bad weather as well. But in that start, when South Africa didn't have dominance in the scrum, if England were, say, New Zealand, you're a little bit more clinical, they could have been home and dry before the bomb squad had any opportunity to have an impact on that game.
Yeah, they're definitely going to take some note from that, and everyone now knows the bomb squad that comes on and has a huge impact, and they do change games in the last 20 minutes. So the way that New Zealand tactically will play the game will have to be slightly different for when that approach does happen. You as a team, you just want to try and give the opposition as little scrums as possible by being clinical in your decision-making, making them continue to make defence reads, so mentally they're taxed. People underestimate, if you're making a team make decisions all the time as an attack, they're going to slowly but surely make poor ones later in the game.
Well, it's crucial what you said there. New Zealand gave away just a single handling error against Ireland. So if you're not giving away handling errors, you're restricted to either penalties or marks for your scrums. You're not going to get them from anywhere else.
Yeah, very much so. And New Zealand traditionally don't have many handling errors. So it's going to be down to South Africa and how they approach their defence and the way they pressure New Zealand to make them make more mistakes. The adjustment of defence in terms of line speed, if they was to throw that in, that could really make New Zealand's decision-making slightly off at times, like New Zealand did to Ireland. But having said that, it's going to make for one hell of a final, and we're going to see two complete different styles that are able to sort of dip the toe in the opposition style too, with the kicking game for New Zealand to copy from South Africa, but also South Africa with the dynamic, explosive players that they have. So it's going to be fascinating.
Well, Danny, we've talked through the key battle areas, but now it's down to you. Who's going to win, and what's the score going to be?
Oh, it's going to be. That's a very difficult one. That's a very difficult one. I feel that New Zealand are peaking at the right time, but that doesn't mean I'm going with them. And South Africa have an uncanny ability in big games to find a way to win. I feel if it's raining, South Africa chances dramatically increase. If the weather is okay, I would actually lean towards New Zealand. I've given you no answer there, so I'm going to say New Zealand, but I love the Saffers and the way they play.
Perfect. Well, Danny, thanks for that. So Danny thinks it's going to be a lot down to the weather that we see on the weekend. But what do you think? Do you think New Zealand are going to win, or do you think it's going to be South Africa? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Beyond 80, and we really hope you enjoyed the Rugby World Cup final.